Hey, what is up mortals? It's TCCrew here with a new video for you. Welcome to part 12 of What If Villains and Heroes Swap Places. I just wanted to greet you guys by just saying sit back and relax. You're in for a treat. So, we begin. Just as the first droplets of crystal clear water landed on Izuku's battered, bruised, and bloodied skin, soothing with its cooling touch, he smiled. The silent pitter-patter of the raindrops as they fell from the clouds above, as if heaven itself opened its gates, creating a shield around not only Izuku but Toya and Katsuki as well. Each raindrop that so much as gazed the fury villain's large frame reduced to steam on contact. Stepping forward, scorched earth, Toya, as Endeavor called him, manifested a handful of the same scorching hot cyan flame that he had manifested prior. However, despite the young, dark-haired man's stalwart demeanor, Izuku saw how what flesh remained normal on the young man's face smoked, and how with each movement of his lips smoke rolled out from in between his teeth. "This fight's between me and you, Dad. The kid's got nothing to do with this," Toya said, voice dry and raspy from the constant use of his powerful flames. Endeavor stuck one meaty finger out directly at Toya. "It became their fight the moment they chose to become heroes," Endeavor yelled, gathering yet another fistful of flame, another flash fire fist. Izuku wasn't sure the blue flame pyrotechnic hero could handle another heated clash with the villain. He was starting to slow down, his flesh already beginning to swell and smoke. "Bakugo, step back!" Izuku said, ushering the atomic blonde back several feet, leaving approximately 12 feet between himself, Toya, and Katsuki. "What is it? Trying to outplay me?" Bakugo growled, growing louder by the minute. With a rampant wave of his hands and a vicious shaking of his head, the verdine-haired youth quelled whatever fire was beginning to burn. Silencing his rage for the moment, Izuku closed his eyes and exhaled. Searching the depths of the quirk, he was given for something, anything to assist in this moment. The rumble of the thunder above grabbed his attention, and he knew what to choose from the myriad of quirks he now owned. Storm manipulation. Opening his eyes, his emerald hue suddenly glowed in the dimming light. Extending a hand, the clouds above answered him, catching the attention of not only Endeavor, but Toya as well. Bringing his hand up and then down, several bolts of lightning jumped to reply. Two struck Endeavor directly, while the others merely touched down on the ground around him with a furious display of Mother Nature's raw power. Endeavor screamed out in rage fueled by pain as the electricity coursed through his veins. "Bakugo, now!" Izuku yelled. Bakugo grinned maliciously, clutching his fist shut and cutting off the lightning attack. Bakugo launched himself forward with his explosions, quickly closing the distance between himself and the villain. Extending a palm, he fired an explosion point blank in Endeavor's face. When the smoke cleared, the large and now flameless man lay in a pile of rubble on the opposing side of a yard across from them. Skin burnt and smoke from a combination of the explosions and the lightning alike. Izuku paused for a moment, a sudden wave of nausea washing over him, in that instant causing him to kneel over and dry heave onto the ground underneath him. The ground underneath them rippled, crackling before several spikes of stone enclosed not only the still, unconscious form of Hawks, but Endeavor as well. The suddenness of it drew Izuku's eyes towards the gates of the Colosseum, where Overhaul kneeled with one hand placed palms down on the ground. To the left stood Stain, blade drawn and ready to inflict pain, while at least 12 other clones of Twice filled out whatever space was left behind. "Hey, we did it!" Izuku muttered, wavering slightly. His body felt faint and heavy at the same time. He barely had time to watch as Shigaraki and Ochako came sprinting out from behind the hordes of heroes before his vision faded to black and he dropped to the ground unconscious. Izuku woke to the static electronic beeping of a heartbeat monitor at his side and the sight of Kai Chizuki to the right with one hand on his chest. The pain from his damaged right arm being broken down and then reconstructed went unnoticed on the freckled-faced boy. Off to the side and just behind Overhaul sat the worried form of not only Ochako but Shigaraki and, most surprisingly, Bakugo as well. Izuku looked on in silence, eyesight blurry as Overhaul once more placed his hand palms down on the verdine-haired teen's bare chest. His eyesight blackened for a split second as his body pulsed, his cells resetting and his body reverting back to the state it was prior. However, the heavy feeling remained, the same pulsing nausea.
Son of a bitch.
Overhaul muttered underneath his breath, withdrawing his hand from Izuku's body before standing up. Shigaraki and Ochako stood up in unison, rushing over to take up the place Overhaul left behind as he turned away and went back to the desk situated in the corner of the room.
What happened?
Izuku asked drearily, emerald hues lulling in their sockets.
No one really knows. You just blacked out after the fight you had with those villains.
Shigaraki said.
We were all afraid you've been hurt.
Ochako added on, the fear evident in her otherwise sweetly pitched tone.
Whatever he did, he managed to severely damage his body's molecular tissue. It's something that I can't even fix.
Overhaul chimed in, crossing to the room to stand by Midoriya's bedside once again.
I'm afraid if you continue using your quirk as excessively as you did today, your body will become totally irreparable.
The pleat-clad doctor said. Turning away from the bedridden Izuku, he left Shigaraki and Ochako to stand by his side and deal with the aftermath of his diagnosis.
Izuku,
Shigaraki paused, mid-statement. Whatever it was he was about to say lost to the moment.
I don't care what happens to me. I'll break my body again and again if I have to. I refuse to let anyone get hurt.
Izuku said unflinchingly.
But Izuku...
Ochako began, mahogany hues wide with fright.
What if something happens and you can't use your quirks again? Or worse, what if you die?
She fretted. Shigaraki exhaled.
I don't think we're gonna be able to talk him out of this.
The palish, blue-haired youth said.
Then all we can do is make sure he stays safe,
Ochako declared. The messy indigo-haired youth sat with his hands resting idly in his lap. The young 1B student had spent the last hour and a half sitting idly, occasionally being visited in his room by either Shoto Aizawa, otherwise known as the racer villain Eraserhead, or one of the many cronies that worked alongside him. On the off chance he had been able to hear All Might's laughter as it rumbled through the confines of wherever it was they had taken him. Admittedly, even Shinso didn't know where it was that he had been placed at.
This is boring,
Shinso said, letting out a half-hearted sigh.
I'd hoped that being kidnapped by villains would be more, I don't know, exciting. 1A really does get everything,
he said. He simply leaned back in his seat, resting his head against the stone wall at his back. It'd been an entire hour of sitting in listless silence before anyone would show up. The sound of the door in front of him opening would catch his attention before the person themselves. He cocked an eyebrow at the sight of Shoto Todoroki. The half-and-half ebony-haired youth stared at the taller male with eyes as cold as the stone walls at his sides.
So who are you exactly?
Shinso asked the boy, cocking an eyebrow.
My name is Shoto Todoroki. I'm the son of the number 2 villain, Endeavor. You're Hitoshi Shinso, General Corps student, right?
He asked. Shinso nodded.
Yeah, I am. Care if I ask you a question?
Shinso responded, locking eyes with the boy standing before him. Sure, but make it quick. The boy suddenly paused, his mind going blank as the boy found himself under the control of Shinso's quirk, brainwashing. Shinso expelled a breath. This was too easy. First it was the trash tier excuse of a tournament, now it was a kidnapping. Standing from where it was that he sat, he gestured simply to the door.
Open the door,
he commanded. Without a will of his own, the brainwashed Shoto could only act. Approaching the door, he placed a hand flat against the door. In a second, the icy tendrils of his quirk began filling each micro crevice in the door's surface, expanding and turning the door into a little more than a chunk of ice. It would crumble shortly afterwards, granting Shinso the freedom he craved. He looked towards Shoto, eyeing the boy for a moment before shoving his head into the wall. With a solid thwack that echoed down the hallway, the boy collapsed unconscious. Izuku exited the hospital doors several hours following the diagnosis from overhaul. He looked at his hands. The veins on his right hand and forearm began to darken to an almost purplish gray. The skin around these infected veins seemed to have almost turned significantly paler than the rest of his arm. Looking at it, Izuku could only wonder if this was the cellular tissue degradation that Overhaul had mentioned. He clenched his hand into a tight fist, digging his fingernails into the palm of his hand hard enough to draw blood. He had begun to wonder if this had anything to do with the Nomu syndrome that All for One had mentioned.
Did One for All know that this would happen?
Izuku muttered to himself. He let the thought hang idly in the air as he turned to walk away from the hospital. Halfway down the street he paused at the all-too-metallic sound of a hammer of likely a firearm being pulled back.
"Don't turn around and I won't have to shoot you, kid,"
said the voice. The voice's inflection reminded Izuku of Clint Eastwood and those old cheesy western movies his mom would watch on occasion.
"Who?"
Izuku began to question.
"Don't worry about who I am, you hear? I'm a friend to the Hero Public Safety Committee, and I need you to inform him about what I'm going to tell you, alright?"
the cowboy asked. Izuku nodded his head.
"They've been working on something they've been calling a Nomu. No idea exactly what it is, but it has something to do with that boy that has fire on the left side and eyes on the right side. Probably something worth looking into for them, higher-ups,"
he said.
"Wait! Before you leave, what am I supposed to call you? I can't just tell them someone randomly stopped me outside of the hospital to tell me that,"
Izuku said, voice somewhere in between panic and agitation at being held at gunpoint. The voice paused.
"You could call me Crossfire."
Crossfire responded. The sound of his pistol being put away signaled the end of the danger, but as Izuku rolled around to face his would-be assailant, he was met with nothing but open air. His eyes widened by the familiar sound of Shigaraki and Ochako's voice from some distance away, snapping him out of his thoughts.
"You sure look better, Izuku,"
Ochako yelled, running up to the verdine-haired boy. Shigaraki quickly fell on his heels.
"Yeah, I feel better too, I think,"
Izuku said, reflexively looking at his hand.
"You look like you've seen a ghost,"
Shigaraki said, crossing his arms over his chest. Izuku responded.
"Yeah, I feel like I did. We can ask him more when we get him home. His mom's worried sick,"
Ochako declared. Grabbing Izuku with one hand and Shigaraki with the other, she turned tail from the hospital before going sprinting away into the night, leaving Snipe standing alone in the nearby alleyway, watching in silence as the young hero ran off. Thank you all for indulging yourselves in the story thus far. I hope you enjoyed it. Now there are a few more things that I'd like to go over before the video ends. Firstly, we've got a second channel called Anime Deep Dive. Anime Deep Dive goes deep into the facts and lore of a wide variety of anime. It's sure to expand your weeb knowledge for all kinds of series, guaranteed. On top of that, we have a third channel called We Celestial Naruto What Ifs. It's what we do on this channel already, but in the vast world and lore of Naruto. Go check it out if you're in the mood for some jutsu action. Secondly, on behalf of We the Celestials, I'd like to thank everyone involved in the production of today's awesome content. Their details will be in the description below. Lastly, if you're interested in what we do here at We the Celestial, then I would like to extend out an invitation to join the team. The only caveat being, we only accept members 16 years and up to join our crew. You can sign up for whichever category fulfills your interests by joining the recruitment Discord using the link in the description below. Our Discord is an all-around fantastic place to be, whether you're a fan or looking to join our band of misfits. We're always looking for members to join us. Well, that's it from us for today's video, so thank you all for watching and have a great day.